All right, welcome back, my dear student. So, on this lecture here, we are going to be learning about Eloquent, all right, which is the functionality of Laravel that is actually one of the most popular ones because it allows us to do a lot of database queries in a very easy format. A lot easier than raw SQL, okay? So, now, how does it work? This is the part where it gets most confusing in Laravel, and I want you to pay very close attention because you need to get this. Okay? So let's start with this real quick. I'm using routes from the beginning of this course. We could, however, use the controller and display the information on the view. Okay? I'm using routes because it's a lot easier to show you this information here now, and then later on we'll apply it to a project. All right? So, what is a model in Laravel? How do we control the model? How do we access the information from the model? How we actually use it, right? How can we, what is a model, right? Well, I already explained to you that the model is a class that deals with databases, right? But that doesn't help much, right? To understand exactly what a model is, right? Let me show you. So let's go to terminal real quick and let's create one. In order for us to access information from the database using Eloquent, which is that functionality of Laravel that deals with the queries in a very easy format. In order for me to access that, all those functionalities, I will have to create a model. That's a class. So PHP, we're gonna use this command, right? The command tool artisan. So PHP artisan make colon model. And now we give it a name. I'm going to create a model called post. So a capital, that's the first letter, it has to be in an uppercase, right? Post, right? And then if I flag this like this with an M, it would create a migration, all right, at the same time. Remember when we started creating migrations so that way we can define our tables? Well, if I do this, it would create a migration. If I do it without it, it would create a model. So let's do it without it first. Let's click enter. So now it's created. Now remember that I told you that models were going to be right here in the same root as app. All right, so give me 1 second. I'll show you right now. Not the same root, not the same level as app, but inside app, and models should be right here. Now I have to synchronize my app folder because there we go. So now it's available here. If I double click it now, you can see that it just creates this file, name post. We are importing. We have this namespace, excuse me, called app. So we can access this from somewhere else, right? We can use somewhere else. So we are importing the model, and we, of course, that's how we are extending it here, right? We are extending post from here, right? So if you click, if you have, I think it works like this on Windows. If you have Windows and you click Control click, if you're using PHP Storm, you can see what the model class does, right? We can see all the stuff that it has, all the properties that we can play around with, all right, and the methods. Has a bunch of methods here. All right, let's go back to post. So, so now that we have this post class, this model, we can access it. We can now play around with Eloquent, right? All right, excuse me. So one of the first things that you got to understand here is that by default, when we create a migration, it's called the name of the model. It has the same name of the model in all lowercase. So we created this model by itself right now. All right. We didn't create a migration, but we're gonna do that in a minute. Right now, this model here thinks that the table name that we have in our database is called posts like this because it converts this into all lowercase and then plural all the time. So if we had article, this was article, the table would be articles. So now we have access, and I know you don't understand it right now, but I want you to keep an open mind. We have access to a to a post table from this class. It's thinking we have a post table, and it's right, we do have one. All right. So, if just in case in the future you had this model named differently, like, and I don't know why would you do that, but just in case model was named I don't know, post admin or something like that. Then you will have to come here and tell Laravel to know that the table is not post admins, because it's gonna think you have a table like this, admins. All right. So you're gonna have to come here and write a protected property with a variable table, and just define it right here, and just say, hey, listen, Laravel, my table is not named post admins, but it's named posts. So now you're able to use this class to do all the methods and properties, and access all the stuff from Eloquent, right? All right. So now another thing that you also have to know is that by default, this model here thinks that your table has a column name ID. All right, like this. So it has a called primary key name ID by default. Okay, so you can access that, and you're gonna see that later on. But if for some reason your column name, your primary key is not name ID, is named something like post ID, make sure that you come here and you write it down here and you define it. So that way when you're using Eloquent, then it knows that your primary key is named different than the default one, which is this, which you really don't have to write it down. Okay, it just thinks it has those columns named like that. I was just letting you know that that's how you do it if you had a totally different name for your table or for your ID. Okay, so anyway, let's get to this. I'm gonna comment this out, and I'm gonna use the post model right there. So I know that you didn't understand much in this lecture, but don't worry, this is gonna become very clear later on. So now let's go back to routes. All right, so let's go to HTTP and then routes. And here we're gonna make a comment. So I'm gonna take some comment block from here, and I'm gonna paste it in here, and I'm gonna call this Eloquent, or object relational model. All right, that's the name, ORM. All right, excuse me. All right, so let's create a route real quick. All right, this is gonna make a lot more sense once we get into the application later in the course. So we're gonna read some information. We already have this commented out, so we can actually name it find. And we're gonna have a closure function, and like I said, we can use this in a controller if we wanted to. I'm just want to use it like this now, and then later on when we build the application, we use it, and we use the controllers in our application. We're using routes right now to show you how everything works. So let's say, for example, that I want to access information. I want to retrieve information from the database using Eloquent. How do we do it? Let me show you. So now I'm gonna go like this, post, create a variable, and I'm gonna do this app, and you see this is a backslash, not a forward slash like this, backslash, like in the Windows machine, and then I will go and refer to that post. You see that? So what I'm doing here is referring to this namespace. Remember that everything is right here under app, and then the class is right here. So I'm referring to that there. But I can do that. I don't have to do that here. I can go ahead and take that off and go all the way to my application on top here and do this, use, and paste that there. And now I'm importing this class, this functionality, this post class right here, this model. Now you don't see it, but we have a lot of methods and properties available to us from this because we are extending the model. Remember, this is a parent. So automatically post is going to have all these methods like save, update, destroy. I mean, a whole bunch of different methods that are there's so many of them that I don't even know them by heart. Okay, so you learn this, as you go along in the course, of course. So post. So how do we find it? Well, we say post We write the name, and because this is going to be a static method, we put our colon and we say all. That's it. Now this is pulling all the records, all right, and saving it right here on this post variable. So now if we want to see it, super simple. For each, we loop through it, right, as post and title. There we go. And let's return that and see it on the browser. Actually, this is called find. I'm just gonna rename it to read. All right. So let's go here and see what we can do. Read, enter. Okay. Oh, you know what? We don't have a record in our database, so that's why we don't see anything. Let's just insert it, because I think one of the last lectures was to PHP is the best with Laravel. So I'm inserting some record. That way we have some information. Okay. You should be doing the same thing. I'm just gonna insert some timestamp or whatever. Hopefully it doesn't give me an error. There we go. Now we go and check it out real quick. CMS read enter. As you can see, we are echoing the title. All right. Beautiful. So now you can also, all right, we can also find the record. So now we know that we have a record there. Let's take a look to see what's the ID of it. All right. Browse. We have a record with ID number 2. Cool. All right. So let me show you. So now let's just comment all this out. And for time's sake, I'm going to paste it. All right, guys. Don't do that. I want you to write it down, but I'm going to get a different route. I'm going to say find. And I come here. And I'm going to say post find 1. All right. And if we go here, come back here and we say find, enter. Oops. Hold on. Oh, you know what? We don't have to loop through it because it's finding one post. So we just comment this out and let's just return it. Post title. And let's just take the S out of it. Okay. Let's come back here. Enter. Oops. All right. We have an error there. We forgot the semicolon. Post find. Let's do it. Okay, get. There we go. That should bring out the. Oh no. Oh, you know why it's not returning? Sorry about that, guys. We're not looking for ID number 1. We're looking for ID number 2. All right, cool. Enter. There we go. Now we find the record with ID number 2 and we bring out the title. And remember, this is coming like an object now. All right, so we're pulling out that. If we have multiple ones, then we will get and find the all, right? We will pull everything from here. All right, but we're doing finding the record with ID number 2. Beautiful, right? Anyway, thank you so much for watching this lecture. I hope you're liking how to use Eloquent, how easy it is, right? And remember that we can also use this anywhere we want as long as we import, all right, the model, all right? So this find method is available in the model, in the parent class, all right? And everywhere you import it, you can use it just like I'm using it right now in routes.php. Thank you so much for watching this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.